Roman Travers, Magic Talk.
The Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group has the top man, and the top man is Harold Hillman. Unlike the Republicans who had Trump, he's refusing to make a clean escape, really, isn't he, Harold? It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it?
It is. It is. We, with a narcissist, you should not expect any what we would call reasonable concession. And so it will be about fraud. It will be about, this was rigged, et cetera. He will not, he cannot render himself to a reasonable degree of just objectivity and accepting the reality that his character did not resonate with most Americans over the last 4 years.
Now, Harold, tell me if this is true or not, or just another story that's been unfounded, but he interfered himself with the postal system, literally removing letterboxes.
Yeah, months ago. I think this would have been back in the March, April timeframe. He appointed a friend of his to become the Postmaster General, who systematically then began to dismantle the Postal Service, removing mailboxes in minority neighborhoods and communities. And it was only discovered. And then they, this guy who was in this role then said, oops, we'll put them back. And so they started putting mailboxes back. But you sort of imagine that Trump would have anticipated that a significant number of mail-in votes would have been against him. And so all of a sudden, mailboxes started disappearing.
Yeah, it's a bit embarrassing. And I'm not a political expert, but what I would say is learn when to exit with some dignity. Stop talking, just leave now.
Yeah.
What does this mean? Joe Biden's victory, what does it mean for your friends and family in the U.S.?
It means so much. It means so much. I've had, family and friends. I've had friends in tears, in jubilation this morning because America, I really do feel this, has redeemed itself. It was, Donald Trump was alluring 4 years ago because he was different. He said he was going to drain the swamp. People sort of who didn't know a whole lot about his business success or lack thereof, but trusted that he was going to bring a certain edge to the nation. And so people saw that as refreshing and what you might even regard as, a bit authentic, his authenticity in terms of being real, not politically correct, attracted a lot of people. But I tell you what, he didn't have a record in terms of leading anything huge, certainly a nation. And over the last 4 years, that record has come in and it has been a disaster in terms of what you would consider to be. Joe Biden was elected because Joe Biden, people can viscerally connect with his character, which is you believe that a person is congruent in terms of what they say and what they do, that they are embedded in deep values, which reflect empathy and care and concern for others. Donald Trump has, we could go on for hours in terms of, and just list off one by one the number of times. This man lies so well. He lies so well that he doesn't realize he's lying. I mean, that's how, it's sort of deep it is in terms of that, what I would call putting on my psychology hat, true narcissism, and mixed with a dash of divisiveness and just, dividing Americans, simply refusing to denounce white supremacy. That whole scene in Charlottesville, that was the catalyst for Joe Biden deciding that he wanted to run. Joe Biden is 70, what is he, 78 years old or something like that? He could have done many things with his life, but when he heard the president of the United States say, well, there are good people on both sides. A prime minister needs to take a stand.
If you live long enough, you make mistakes, right? Joe Biden's not perfect. Are there any things of his character or his history that concern you?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. He was criticized a bit because he made an effort when there were devout sort of racists in the Senate. This would have been 20 years ago, and Biden would always make an effort to you talk with them. And, he got criticized a bit about that during the primary season. But I think that is a real good example of how he does not let difference impede his ability to just sit with another person and care. And he's comfortable with vulnerability. This is a guy who, as a child, stuttered. And who many people on Trump's side wanted to take advantage of that, sort of suggest that he had cognitive disabilities and things like that. It's just wicked.
That brings me into resilience quite nicely, because if you put yourself on that platform, it's like sitting here. You get pulled to pieces. It's good, bad, it's ugly, but it's a bit different being the president of the US. You do need a high level of resilience, don't you?
You do. You do. And a high, what correlates, there are three things that correlate with resilience. One is the ability to accept staunch reality quickly. I don't think we're going to see that from the sitting president right now. And that is to just basically come on out and concede. Thank Americans, praise Americans for voting the highest number, and just accept that, hey, people voted on the basis of what they considered to be most important, and he didn't win. I don't think we're going to see that from him. There is a deeper meaning. So I'm quoting three factors from a 2015 article from Harvard Business Review. The author of this article was Andrea Ovens, and she suggested that there are three things that we need to keep in perspective in trying to manage resilience. And this is an important year for managing resilience. All of us know that. There are the simple things like getting enough sleep, eating right, staying active, and those types of things. But she highlighted three things. One was the ability to accept staunch reality. We just talked about that one. The second one is that there is a deeper meaning to life for people who believe that in some cases it may be spiritual, it may be religious, it may be that perspective that you can't grow faith unless it's tested, and that this would be a year when faith certainly would have been tested. So for many people, their spirituality would have deepened. And then some people take the long view on that, even if not from a spiritual perspective. It was Dr. Aristotle 14 centuries ago who suggested that you can't grow character unless you face into adversity. And Aristotle actually coached leaders to go out and in search of adversity, because it would grow your character. This year, many people have a deeper perspective on life and character. And then the third thing is the uncanny ability to improvise. In a year where we have certainly had to do that. I remember watching TV back during the first lockdown, and there was a guy bench pressing his two twin sons, as weights, and they were gleefully, with their dad. And it was just it was an example of when you're facing into a year like this, where there have been significant spikes in anxiety and depression, mindset is everything. And so it is important for people to be more purposeful and more proactive about resilience.
Why does character matter in leadership?
It matters big time. It matters big time. It is it was Aristotle who suggested the three, he called them the three proofs of rhetorical persuasion. And he talked about ethos, which is character. He talked about pathos, which is emotion. And he talked about logos, which is logic. That's been updated in a 2018 TED Talk by a Harvard Business School professor named Frances Frey. I recommend that your listeners look at this, because she makes the same case. She calls it the trust triangle. And one of the points on the trust triangle is character. And the fact that if you want people to follow you, not because you're the boss, but not because you may be the head guy or woman on the team, but if you want people to follow you because they are viscerally connected with you, they've got to believe that you have strong character. Character is that, again, that sense of authenticity, congruence between what I say and what I do, and a person who seems to be connected to a why in the context of of purpose. That a person with character seems to be connected to a deeper sense of purpose.
All right, about 30 seconds out here from the news. But for those of us that aren't running the United States, what do we need to keep our eyes on this year in terms of personal resilience?
I would just say really almost to the point of being a bit selfish, I would say look after yourself. Infuse more joy into your life. Energy in, energy out. And for most of us, it's been a lot of energy out this year. So be purposeful about infusing that positivity, which makes a huge difference in a year like this.
And I think you've made a huge difference to many people's lives, listeners and people you work with in business. And you can catch up with Harold Hillman from the Sigmoid Curve Consulting Group. How, Harold? How?
www.sigmoidcurve.com.
Beautiful stuff.